Hey guys, what's up? I'm Greg Burke,
And I'm Ozzie Mejia.
and this is the Review Recap. Alright, so as you guys all know, Evolve came out this week, and Ozzie, you did the review as well as some features on it. And the first thing I want to ask you is, was this game overly hyped?
I wouldn't say it's going to depend on how you look at it, because a lot of people are kind of coming at it from the perspective of, wow, it's a $60 game and it's got about $130 worth of cosmetic DLC. It's got a couple of season passes. It's got a couple of add-ons. But if you kind of look at it blind, and I've seen a couple of people both on our chatty boards and online that have come into this game kind of blind, just approaching it just as is. And if you look at it as is, I don't think it, I think it's a pretty good experience. Like, I think the only problem that I really have with it is it's not an ideal game that you want to play with random people. I mean, yes, it's fun being the monster, but you also want to try out the hunters, and you also want to try out your assault class, your trapper class. All that stuff is fun to play on its own. But the thing is, if you jump in with random people, it's not going to be so much fun because everybody's going to be uncoordinated. Everybody's going to be off doing their own thing. And this is the kind of game where teamwork is essential. It's like Left 4 Dead in that sense, in that if nobody works together, it's just going to go terrible for you, and it's not going to be a fun experience. If you've got 3 friends, it's going to be fine. It's going to be a game that you can play for at least a month. I don't know how long it's going to last, but you can definitely get some enjoyment out of it.
And that brings me to my second question about the DLC. A lot of people, this is actually kind of really just crazy. Like, $130 worth of cosmetic DLC in a AAA game. Like, how does that make you feel?
This isn't the first time I've seen something like this. The first time I saw this was a couple of years ago for Gears of War Judgment. And Gears of War Judgment was really overboard with, like, weapon skins and all that stuff for a $60 game, and they had about maybe $50, $60 worth of cosmetic DLC. I think that it's understandable, given that they want to try and expand the game beyond the next couple of months. They want to be able to create maps. They want to be able to create, add some new hunters, new monsters. And to do that, well, it's going to cost a little bit more money, and you have to keep the programmers employed. You have to keep the developers, the QA testers, all that stuff. You have to keep them well compensated because they're working like crushing hours. So I understand that they want to try and get a few extra bucks, and the cosmetic DLC doesn't really bother me as much just because it's easy to ignore. I mean, I don't really need an extra skin for Goliath, so it's easy for me to just kind of pass by it. The part where I would complain would be the kind of exorbitant prices for the extra hunters and for the extra monsters. That's a little bit harder to swallow. So I think that's the part that bothers me a little more. I kind of get why they're doing it, but it doesn't make it any easier. But $130 worth of cosmetic DLC is really easy to just kind of just throw over your shoulder and not even give it a second thought.
And you can't even see your hunter, like with the skin DLC. It's like the other people will see it, but you won't.
There's the opening cinematics, there's a closing cinematic, all that kind of thing, where you kind of just like see the introduction of the hunters. And you do kind of get a third-person perspective whenever you're dead, but for the most part, yeah, skins are kind of easy to just like not even think about. So, yeah, they have a lot of paid cosmetic DLC, but just ignore it. That's all I can say.
And the last question is this game worth the $59.99 price point? Should they try it first? Should they borrow it from a friend, or should they rent it?
Well, hopefully people have jumped into the beta, and the beta actually does offer a good glimpse of what the game is. The most recent Xbox One beta actually gave you a good look at Evacuation, and Evacuation really is one of the primary reasons to get this game, because they added a pretty good mini story-based experience to this whole thing, where you can just like go through five different game modes, 5 different places with changing conditions, with a couple of different maps. And it even ends with a really cool cutscene depending on who wins. You can see like the hunters finally taking down the monster, or you can see just the monster just wreaking havoc and destroying everything. It's a really satisfying little game mode. I love Evacuation. That's the reason why why I loved Evolve as much as I did. I didn't think it was the greatest game in the world. I actually thought that some of the game modes were pretty uninspired and not didn't really do much with the 4 versus 1 concept like I hoped it would. But Evacuation actually makes those modes kind of interesting in the sense that they add a few wrinkles to it. They add a few environmental changes. They add a few extra things you have to look out for, and I think it's worth trying just for that.
Well, thanks, Ozzy, for your time today.
Thank you very much, Greg.
For everything else Evolve related, you're already in the right place. You're on Shacknews.com.